Hello everyone, my name is Eliana Capioto. I am an English teacher and I am specialized in helping basic learners of English and intermediate learners of English to reach fluency. I've created this channel out of the need to find material online for my students to practice their listening skills. Every time I look for content on YouTube for my students, I have a hard time finding something that is good for their levels. So this channel is for those students, basic, pre-intermediate, and intermediate level students. If you are one of them, stay here with me and every week you will have one video to practice your listening skills. This is my first video here and I am so excited to finally be here. You have no idea of how much time I took to finally come here and record a video. And this is the topic of today's video. Today, I want to talk about fear and the power it has over us if we let it control us. This is my story of how fear affected my life negatively. So I really hope that you can learn something from my story. I will start from the beginning. My relationship with fear started when I was very young. I lost my father when I was 7 years old, and therefore I was raised only by my mother. We used to live in a very simple house in the north area of São Paulo, and that house was on a street that would flood every time it rained a lot. Actually, I think it still floods. I remember seeing my mom having to leave me and my brother at home alone to take our car, a small, very old Beetle. It was made in 1964. You can imagine how old it was, to a higher place so that when the flood started, our car wouldn't be soaked in sewage water. Sewage water, água de esgoto. That's too bad, right? I was very afraid that she might not manage to come back home before the water went up. But I had to suppress that fear because my brother was watching me and I didn't want to despair him. At that time, I also experienced a lot of fear from watching my uncle, which was an alcohol addict back then. Now he's not anymore, thank God. Coming to my house and demanding money from my mother to buy more alcohol. And 2 or 3 times I had to control my fear because he came to my house and I was alone and I had to deal with him by myself. So I could not let fear control me at that moment. A few years later, when I was around 10 years old, I had a lot of fear that I might lose my mother. This is because my mother had high blood pressure and every time she got very nervous, her blood pressure would go up. And at that time, my mom was dealing with a lot of problems. Not only the floods in our house, not only my uncle coming to ask for money, but also my grandmother being very old and very dependent on my mother's family. And there was a lot of fight in my mother's family over who was responsible for my grandmother, who had to take care of my grandmother. And everybody decided to vanish and it became my mother's responsibility to take care of her mother by herself. After many visits to the emergency room, after my mom had a high blood pressure crisis, I heard the doctor telling my mother that if she didn't care for her health, she would leave me and my brother alone in this world. You can imagine how afraid I felt at that moment. I remember watching my mother sleeping and watching her breathing, watching her lungs, her chest, and her stomach going up and down. I was very afraid of seeing her body stop working. But I never talked about that to anybody back then. From listening to these accounts of my childhood, you might be imagining that my childhood was horrible, but it was far from that. It was actually a very happy childhood, except for those parts. But why did I focus on those parts in here in this video? This is because I wanted to talk to you about my first experiences with fear. Fast forward a few years and I am on 6th grade in elementary school, and I am struggling a lot with project presentations. I was very shy and I dreaded the moment that I would have to go to the front of the class and present my project in front of my classmates. That was the first time that I felt that I could avoid fear. So what did I do? I avoided it. I just didn't do the projects, despite the fact that it would cost me a 0 in my report. Although I cared very much about my academic life, I thought that it was not worth it to face my fears to get good grades. No, I thought that a 0 was okay. Now, you can imagine how much that fear controlled me, right? I did it for a few times, but let me tell you, it did not feel good. No, I actually criticized myself in my mind while I was watching my classmates presenting their projects. And I was considering myself a very weak person because I could not do what everybody else was doing. Fortunately, my science teacher, a short, plump, black-haired and green-eyed woman in her 40s. I remember her name. Her name was Tanya. She pulled me to the side and said to me, "Eliana, you cannot continue avoiding giving presentations. If you do that, in the future, you will not be able to do them, and that will impact your life very negatively." Everybody feared that teacher, and I feared her too. And I was really shocked to see her talk to me like that. You know, I was the kind of student who never stood out in the classes. I was not one of the best students. I was not one of the worst students. I was just an average student. I felt like nobody really noticed me. But she noticed me and she came to talk to me. And nowadays, I really appreciate what she did for me. At that moment, I resolved to start giving presentations, no matter how red my cheeks would get. As I grew up, I experienced many more challenges, situations that really scared me. But most of those times, I could face my fears and do what I had to do. I think it became a habit. The more I faced my fears, the more prepared and strong I felt to face new fears, to face new challenges. On the other hand, I think that the more we avoid our fears, the more weak and unprepared we feel to face them. What do you think? Let me know in the comments here. Now, fast forward to my adult life, and many more fears, many more challenges I have experienced, and most of them I could face and I could challenge and I could do what I had to do. But there is one fear that was always holding me back. You know, one of the biggest goals that I've had in the past few years is to have a YouTube channel. But along with that desire to have the YouTube channel also came the fear of rejection, of not doing a good job and being criticized. I knew nothing about scripting videos, filming videos, editing them, and I always felt unprepared to really start recording my videos. And that fear really paralyzed me. It prevented me from going forward in my career as a solo English teacher. I missed big opportunities because of that fear. I think the biggest opportunity I missed was during the pandemic. Right after the pandemic hit and all the schools closed, all the teachers were looking for information about how to move online, right? And I had been working online for a few years already. I had a lot to teach teachers that wanted to go online. But did I face that fear and really take that opportunity? No, I didn't. Do I regret it? Very much. You can imagine how frustrated I felt. And after that realization that the fear was really keeping me stuck in the same place, I decided to do something about it. I started to study about it, about how to fight that fear and do what I had to do. My first step was to be more present on Instagram. It was not a process that happened overnight, mind you. I started with small steps, recording stories, recording videos. Most of those videos I didn't show my face or my voice. It was just videos of places, and I put songs, but little by little I started showing my face a little bit more and talking to the camera a little bit more, and I got to a point that I started to feel more comfortable talking in front of the camera. Now I am finally feeling more prepared to talk to you, record this video for you and post it on YouTube. You cannot imagine how proud of myself I'm feeling right now. Is this video perfect? No, it's far from being perfect. I need to make some tweaks in the way I speak, in the way I record the video, in my editing, but that's alright, right? I'm still learning the process. What matters is that I am here. I am finally doing this. I am not letting fear control me and hold me back. I have so many things to talk about to you guys, and I have a deep desire to help you with my content, as other YouTubers helped me, impacted my life positively. So the takeaway I want you guys to leave this video with is that fear, if we let it control us, it will hold us back and make us frustrated for the rest of our lives. We have a bright future ahead, and so many opportunities present themselves to us, but if we let fear control us, we will never take advantage of those opportunities. We will never have the success that we dream about. So if you have fear of doing something, that's okay. Everybody has fears. But what you need to do is to take small steps towards getting prepared to face those fears, and then eventually face them. And something that I always try to remind myself is that perfection is very hard to achieve. There's always something that we need to improve, and we don't need to wait for reaching perfection to start helping other people with what we know already. So I know that I can help you very much with your listening skills by being here, by producing content for you to listen to, by producing videos that are possible for you to understand. And that's what matters, right? I am not a perfect YouTuber right now, and I don't even know if I will be someday. I think perfection is, as I told you, very hard to achieve, but I don't need to be extremely good to do something good, to help others. And I want you to understand that the same applies to you. You probably know something, you can help other people with that content, and you might be feeling stuck because you haven't reached that level that you want to achieve. But just remember, the level of expertise that you have will help somebody. That's enough. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you have a goal, a very important goal in your life? And is there a fear that is in the way of you achieving that goal? Let me know in the comments below. Let's talk about that. Let's create a community here in which each one helps each other to face their fears, to improve somehow. So if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. You know that it helps a lot the channels to grow, and my channel is just starting, so I really need the help from you. And if you know someone who needs to practice their listening skills and who might benefit from this message, please send this video to them. See you in the next video. Bye bye.